Welcome everybody to the Lancaster Leaks series. Today I'm going to be going over the 3 games that currently exist in the Lancaster Leak game franchise: the O'Brien State Park, Crisis at the Call Center, and the Entry Exam. We'll get straight into it with the events of the O'Brien State Park. The following tapes and many others were recovered by FBI intern Valerie Bardot and given to us. Leaving without a trace, she suddenly went missing at the end of her internship in Lancaster. Foul play is suspected. So long as Valerie is missing, these tapes will continue to be leaked. We gave you a chance, and this will be your last. The information conveyed throughout this debrief/training tape pertains to a prior investigation. It is imperative that agents refrain from viewing this material unless they possess the appropriate clearance and are under the direct supervision of an instructor. Any failure to comply with this directive will result in prosecution to the fullest extent possible under the Espionage Act of 1917. You have been warned. Case number 12-98-76. Tape purpose: debrief. Date 08/25/1988. Clearance: TS. Case type: missing persons. Entity: present. Status: resolved. O'Brien State Park. Previously inhabited by both Dakota and Ojibwe tribes, it is now home to year-round campers and hikers. The park, along with other state parks up north, has experienced an increase in animal-like attacks. The cause was unknown until found footage of missing persons. Bradley Kaufman provided the Bureau with evidence of what was committing the attacks. On August 25, 1988, Bradley Kaufman, a 59-year-old male, visited O'Brien State Park unaccompanied. The subject's behavior during his visit was unusual, as he intermittently started recording at various times. Medical records revealed no history of mental health concerns. Subsequently, on August 26, the subject was reported as missing. His body was discovered on August 30th, and the recovered footage from his recording device will now be presented in chronological order, accompanied by annotations. (10 p.m.) The subject initiated recording. The reason for their sudden recording activity remains unknown. (10 p.m.) The subject would occasionally zoom on certain objects. (10 p.m.) The subject turned right and went to the bathroom to shower. Pause 1. The subject stopped filming, then takes a shower. It is estimated 10 minutes elapse before the subject films again. The subject returns to the campsite. Pause 2. Upon returning to the campsite, an unknown figure stands near the subject's tent. Neither campground records nor witnesses recall seeing a white male of this profile. Why this person was here or who they are still remains unknown, but it is not being actively pursued. The largest jump of times happens at this point with an estimate of 1 to 2 hours of time elapsed. The recording resumes with the subject 2 miles in the Hardwood Hills Loop. Why the subject started the hike is not relevant to the Bureau's involvement. The deceased deer was killed by entity. Pause 3. Subject encountered deceased deer attacked by entity. The film abruptly ends after subject detects entity in vicinity. Subject exhibits distress and flees off trail. Entity pursues subject and can be heard in proximity. Subject resumes filming approximately 4 minutes after pause. This marks the final pause. The subject is audible for the first time, displaying emotions of fear. The subject begins sprinting as multiple sounds of entities surround him. The subject struggles against entity but gets away. The camera is severely damaged. Subject drops flashlight and then camera. It creates a shadow backdrop. Subject's blood creeps into frame. Distant entities can be heard. Bradley Kaufman's death would occur over the next 5 minutes. The remaining footage has been cut short for viewer discretion. Additional entities can be heard and would later fight over the remains. The footage ends when the camera battery runs out. Subject autopsy. Subject's remains were found scattered. Most flesh was consumed. Little personal items remained intact. The public was told it was an abnormal bear attack. Case relevance. The subject's film was the first footage captured of S-0012. Ultimately, the subject's footage provide the Bureau proof to extend funding and special operations to certain entities. This case marks the first of many successful entity resolution programs. Entity debrief. Name: Wendigo. ID: S-0012. Risk: severe. Containability: 3. Wendigos are creatures originated from Native American tribes of the Great Lakes region. The malevolent supernatural beings bring terror to forest dwellers and are linked to numerous missing persons cases. Tall and emaciated-looking Wendigos bear antlers and possess an insatiable appetite for human flesh. According to recent intelligence, there has been a notable resurgence of the Wendigo, and their geographical distribution has now expanded southward towards Minneapolis. In response to this emerging threat, the Bureau has established a joint task force in collaboration with the Canadian CSIS to take immediate and decisive action to halt the expansion of the species and eventual eradication. It is imperative to maintain strict operational security and keep the general public uninformed of these operations to prevent any unnecessary panic or interference. The story doesn't end here, and we move on to game number 2. Crisis at the call center. Valerie is still missing. Perhaps we have to kick it up a notch. If the cover wasn't enough, how about multiple? You know, the one you facilitated. The information conveyed throughout this debrief/training tape pertains to a prior investigation. It is imperative that agents refrain from viewing this material unless they possess the appropriate clearance and are under the direct supervision of an instructor. Any failure to comply with this directive will result in prosecution to the fullest extent possible under the Espionage Act of 1917. You have been warned. Case number 30-58-37. Tape purpose: debrief. Date: 03/21/1996. Clearance: TS. Case type: entity capability test. Entity: present. Status: resolved. B&L call center. Case focuses on the events that transpired at B&L call center. Location is irrelevant except that the entity was detected 3 days before event. The employees weren't notified. Entity Research and Defense (ERD) Task Force promptly set up wiretaps and social engineered access into security cameras and computers. Ashley Johnson, 31, was a single mother who worked at the call center and put in extra hours performing janitorial services. During the events, the entity selected her as a target, especially during the after hours. This tape focuses on the unprecedented interactions Johnson had with entity and services as a basis for future research into E139. The chronological events of the entity capability test will begin, starting with the first time the entity was captured on film.
Okay, so after it's done restarting, you're going to see a black screen with white letters on it. Go ahead and press any key on the keyboard. No, sir, it's
Do
not
you
a
believe the coffee machine in the break room is broken again?
right.
I ex-
Pause 1. Date: 03/21/1996. No unusual activities. Wiretaps, cameras, and computer spyware operational. Subject begins after hour work. Subject went to computer to see nightly tasks. The spyware allowed access to what subject was viewing before moving on to tasks. The message from James reads as follows. Hey Ashley, could you make sure to take out the security, break room, and storage room trash? I can't think of anything else, so tonight will be a quick one. Thanks, James. We first head to the security room and grab the security room trash. After doing that, we head to the break room and grab that trash before bringing both of those outside to the dumpster. After doing that, we head back inside and simply make our way to the storage room, grab that trash, and take that out to the trash as well. Subject leaves through front door with tasks being complete. Little side note here for you, whenever I was actually playing the game, I could have sworn that this gate was closed whenever I first came out here, and I was right. I ignored it, and I wasn't even going to mention it until going back through the footage and realizing that the gate was in fact closed the first time that you come outside. Pause 2. End of night 1. Subject finishes tasks and heads home. This marks the first time the entity was captured on film. Subject remains unaware of entity. Pause 3. Beginning of night 2. Date 03/22/1996. Entity has not been seen since previous night. No employee is aware of presence of entity. Entity becomes more aggressive. Subject begins after hour work. Subject checks computer for their nightly task. James's night 2 message reads as follows. Hey Ashley, could you start with the bathroom trashes, meeting room, and entrance trash? Oh, also the dishes. Check your email once you're done. I might think of something else. Thanks, James. And so we do just that. We grab the meeting room trash, then the women's room trash, take both of those out to the dumpster and throw them away, then head back inside to grab the other two. While picking up the trash by the entrance, the camera captures this. We grab the trash from the men's room, throw both of those away as well, and then go do the dishes. Subject returns to computer to check email.
You are my happy place.
Yeah, we're gonna Take that and move it over here out of the way. We're gonna ignore that. It doesn't exist. The second email on night 2 from James reads as follows. Hey Ashley, oh, make sure to refill the printer in the meeting room. There should be some paper in the storage room near the breaker. That should be all for tonight. Thanks, James. So, without a single semblance of any type of urgency, we grab the paper, go to the meeting room and refill the printer. And then the lights go out.
Fuck! Is that damn flashlight.
The subject investigates the power outage by going to the breaker in the storage room.
What the fuck happened here?
Subject leaves through front entrance. Entity stalks nearby. Pause 4. End of night 2. Entity's strange behavior to play and stalk its prey is best documented on night 2. Despite its close encounters, subject remains unaware of entity and dismisses the event as a break-in. Possibly most intriguing is the fact entity left security cameras with power. It is only after the events we discovered the entity knew we were watching and permitted it. Pause 5. Beginning of night 3. Date 03/23/1996. Subject begins after hour work. Okay, so here's where I want to get into something. The email tells us what we're doing for the night. It's the same thing as always. Trash, dishes. A couple particular events that I want to talk about happen during this night, and I would rather skip over everything else because it's unnecessary. The first event that takes place is the phone ringing.
Hello?
The subject is lured away by a brief phone call. The power is cut, but the phone remains on. It is assumed the subject also noticed this. This particular scene after the phone call segment I'm going to let play out in its entirety, and I'll talk about it afterwards.
Oh my god. Oh my god! Holy shit! I gotta get out of here!
Subject makes a rash decision to call 911 at the phone that remained powered on.
What's your emergency?
Please help! There's something following me!
Ma'am, I need you to remain calm. Where are you?
I'm at first floor in one of the offices. Please, just send somebody to help me.
Does the intruder have any weapons?
No, it's not a human. Like one that walks on four legs.
Ma'am, are you on any medication or substances?
No! Are you taking me seriously? For fuck's sake, send someone!
Officers are on the way. You should remain in place and hide if possible. Should I do it?
What? Stop whatever you're doing. It's going to hear it. Get away from me! No! Get away from me!
Pause 6. Subject's death. Subject was killed by entity during phone call with crisis actor. To continue the entity capability test, agents were deployed to clean the scene such that call center employees suspect nothing.
Damn, dude, would you look at this? It's like, hey, would you shut up? Listen, how do we know for sure that it's not here? Come on, man, this isn't your first rodeo. Relax. Just hand me the peroxide and let's get this over with.
Pause 7. Cleanup. With both subject and security guard bodies disposed, the scene was ready for more testing. The entity returned to the scene on 03/24/1996. The following are brief clips that happened at 6:03 p.m. The behavior and abilities of entity will be discussed after. Pause 8. Rampage begins. At 6:03 p.m., making use of ceiling space, entity positions itself at the entrance. Phone lines were promptly cut at the first victim's death. Capability test results. The entity capability test was a success, allowing the classification of entity, which will be discussed next slide. The mass casualty event was blamed on Ashley Johnson, who after being fired committed a mass shooting. Media suppression techniques were used to ensure the news didn't escape the local level. Entity debrief. Name Knuckle Walker. ID E139. Threat severe. Containment difficult. Utility significant. Entity threat score. Entity possesses the ability to psychologically torment and kill with ease. Entity is self-aware and acknowledges observations from ERD. Entity is intelligent, despite its appearance, being able to use and understand technology to further torment victims. Entity is often dormant with very few sightings. For these reasons, it has been classified 3. Severe. Entity containment score. Estimated to be less than 10 entities, capable of using quote-unquote backdoors to disappear. ERD has yet to capture or kill entity. Entity enjoys being chased, setting traps, and hunting ERD agents. For these reasons, it has been classified 4. Difficult. Entity utility score. It is unlikely to be able to manipulate entity. Entity likely to kill victim once it selects its prey. Entity often psychologically torments victims. Potential uses. Deployment to enemy territory. deployment against EOS, enemy of state, torture interrogation. ERD must learn how to get entity to target a person of interest. Despite limitations, it has been classified for significant. Closing notes. Additional funding is needed for the capture of E-139. Additional research is needed to unlock the utility. Additional tools are needed to detect entity to prevent agent death and increase research opportunities. The research into the appearance of backdoors remains the top priority. Control of backdoors could provide a way to capture E-139. Quick disclaimer, I'm going to be theorizing here, and also if you've been watching along, you already know as I do that there are plenty of typos in this game, and I don't fault this game for that. Typos just happened. With that said, I want to draw your attention to the emails first off. Every single email is dated as Tuesday, June 14th, 1995. 5:47 p.m. Now, this could have been a random date and time that the game developer chose, and it's not a big deal, but it is weird considering that the game takes place pretty close to this on March 21st to March 23rd, 1996. And even if this is just a random time chosen, I think that the final email still kind of solidifies in my mind that James is either not a real person or is working for the ERD, considering at the bottom footnote of his email, he says, P.S. Please don't tell the rest of the employees we had a break-in. Why wouldn't she tell anybody? It seems like they're just keeping all of this on the hush-hush side of things. But my biggest piece of evidence for this, and the last thing that I'm going to mention, is in the beginning slide. It says this: Entity Research and Defense Task Force promptly set up wiretaps and social engineered access into security cameras and computers. Now, one could assume that that's obviously how we got this demonstration footage, obviously. But the weird thing is that in the top left corner of all of the security cameras, it has copyright 1995 secure link. Again, could just be a random date chosen, but considering the emails are dated 1995 as well, and we also have confirmation during the game itself that there are actors here, such as the 911 operator, who is described as being a quote-unquote crisis actor, not an actual 911 operator. It wouldn't surprise me that there are also other people set up here, such as James is set up to be her boss of some sort, and all of these emails were pre-written. I can't say that I would put that past the ERD, but let me know what you think, because we're going to get into the third game, the entity exam. We are getting the feeling that you aren't taking us seriously. No acknowledgement of missing Valerie or the tapes we are leaking. This time we decided to reveal something a little bit closer to home, an old screen recording of one of your training protocols. If she isn't released, maybe the next leak will show how useless your training is. Does the agent body cam footage ring a bell? Now in this game there are 6 modules that we have to do, but I mainly want to go over 3 of them: situation training, doppelganger detection, and entity 101. I'll go over all 6 of them, but I'm going to be focusing mostly on those 3. Going in chronological order from left to right, top to bottom, we start with face detection.
Throughout ERD research there has been one constant. Entities who possess human characteristics are the most violent, deceptive, and are the greatest threat to public security. It is imperative that agents have the skills to not only detect potential threats but fast. CRD has found the 1-year agent fatality rate goes down from 34.7 per 100 to 26.2 per 100 after taking this module and being proficient in this skill. Using your cursor, click on the face in the image in the allotted time. Distractions may be employed. Begin.
At the end of each information segment, we have to do some sort of minigame. The minigames aren't really all that important except for one, but I'll get to that later. What I think is important is the information disclosed to us in the intro portion. For this module specifically, this quote: "Entities who possess human characteristics are the most violent, deceptive, and are the greatest threat to public security." Because an entity of this type, one that looks like a human, possesses human characteristics, can maybe talk and act somewhat human-like, by nature has more potential to be violent and aggressive towards people, since it can just blend in. An example of this would be in the last game. Let's say the creature that we run into in the last game is a human during the day, but at night it shapeshifts into the entity that we see in the security footage. How would you ever know? If it looks human enough, nobody would be able to point to it and be like, that person turns into this creature at night. Because who's going to believe that? It's a perfect storm for malicious intent among entities who are smart enough to use it.
This module has been created to address and rectify observed deviations from established protocols, reaffirming the essential principles that all ERD agents are expected to adhere to consistently. Lesson 1. CERT. CERT stands for Calmly Collect Evidence, Eliminate Threats, Run Away, and Terminate Self. Given an interaction with an entity, these are the order of actions an agent will take during escalation. First, of course, is data collection, as research remains the top priority of ERD. Second, eliminate the threat, unless such entity is on the preservation list. A dead entity can be studied, a dead agent cannot. If fighting back is futile, agents should run. If running is futile, agents should terminate themselves. Let us look at an example where an agent didn't follow the principles of CERT. In 1989, Agent Redacted was collecting data on Entity E59 Skinwalker. Suddenly cornered, Agent Redacted fired all 12 shots of his service pistol into Entity. With no bullets left, Redacted was subjected to Entity E59's wrath. Remember to search, remember to keep an extra round. This video is another example. Think, following the values of search, what would you do? Lesson 2. Do's and Don'ts, Improvements we need in ERD. To interact with entities, if new data can be collected. Don't risk losing obtained data by interacting too much. Do help co-workers gather data. Don't become friends with co-workers. Do terminate co-workers who leak data. Don't hesitate, explain later. Lesson 3. Follow mission protocol. Deviation from mission protocol endangers yourself, co-workers, and data collection. Assisting civilians is strictly forbidden, unless stated otherwise in mission protocol. Reminder, the punishment for deviation is termination. In 1990, Agent Redacted was on a mission studying an entity. The entity was located at Agent Redacted's house. Agent Redacted tried and successfully saved his wife. Agent Redacted didn't follow protocol and both him and his wife were terminated. This concludes the refresher. We will not remind about these topics again. See your supervisor if you have questions.
Now, this is one of the modules that I want to go over very briefly, and it is because of CERT, calmly collect evidence, eliminate threats, run away, terminate self. I want to go over this specifically because of the extent to which they talk about this. You do not risk the data that you've collected. You do not become friends with coworkers. You don't hesitate to kill anybody. You don't hesitate to kill coworkers. You don't hesitate to kill anything unless it's on the do not terminate list, in which case you run away or kill yourself. And they even remind you of that by saying following this protocol to a T is essential, and if you don't, you yourself will be terminated. To the extent where an agent who saved his own wife was then terminated along with his wife. There is no leeway here. You follow their rules the way that they say it, or you die.
Due to its emergence as one of the most common and dangerous entities, special training on doppelganger detection was created. Originally thought to be its own entity type, the doppelganger is rather a class of entities who visually and audibly mimic humans. Doppelgangers can be detected from their abnormal features. The most common attributes to look for are loose skin, missing features, and incorrect features. Further classification of doppelgangers can be made by observing the abnormal features. For example, skinwalkers always have loose skin. However, identification is covered in a different module.
Despite this module being very short, it still has a lot of useful information in it. They reiterate the point that doppelgangers have emerged as one of the most dangerous entities, but also some of the most common. But they also clarify that doppelganger is not its own entity type. It's a class of entity that can just visually or audibly mimic humans. With this information in mind, we're going to move on to the Entity 101 segment. The two other modules are kind of just pointless because there's nothing to go over in them, so we're going to move on to that one.
Entities are otherworldly beings that humans have been encountering for thousands of years. For once was a rare sighting, entities have begun appearing more rapidly through time. This led to the founding of the Entity Research Department. The ERD goal is researching entities to protect the public, but more importantly, finding utility in entities, and where they come from. The leading theory of where they come from is backdoors, yet no physical evidence has been found yet. That's where you come in. As an agent of ERD, you will be conducting highly confidential research missions to explore the gain of function of entities and finding their origin. This brief module will explain how entities are classified and show you the 4 entities ERD are focusing on in 1992. Entities are given an ID but are often given a nickname. Some entities are given a class that link them to a family of entities. Entities are classified in 3 ways: threat level, containment, and utility, each rated by 5 levels. Entity, E549. Nickname, Shadow People. Class, Doppelganger. Threat, Moderate. Containment, Extreme. Utility, Significant. Shadow People, or Night Terrors, torment their prey during night when there is low visibility, often in bedrooms, when the prey is sleeping. Paralyzing their prey during sleep, Shadow People will ominously watch from a distance. It isn't known why Shadow People choose to kill, as they will often torment the same subject for many years, but when they do, the victim isn't touched. To the civilian world it seems the subject died in their sleep. The research goal this year is finding out how Shadow People choose their prey, and if this can be influenced. If so, E549 could be used in advanced interrogation techniques. Entity, E718. Nickname, Matronic. Class, Machine. Threat, Low. Containment, Easy. Utility, Moderate. Matronics take the form of animatronics, playful figures that appeal to children. Matronics prey on children with no known case of an adult victim. It isn't known where Matronics bring their children prey, however, they are never seen again. Matronics, although dangerous, they are easy to terminate and capture. The past 5 years, agents of ERD children have been targeted by Matronics and have taken 107 to date. The research goal this year is finding why Matronics are targeting agent children, and how to redirect their targeting. Entity, E59. Nickname, Skinwalker. Class, Doppelganger. Threat, Severe. Containment, Moderate. Utility, Significant. Skinwalkers are ancient shapeshifters usually taking the form of animals and uncommonly humans, stealing their skin in the process. Skinwalkers are incredibly violent and when killed leave behind nothing but their body vector. Skinwalkers have a hard time replicating the natural movements of creatures they take control of. Skinwalkers can often be identified by unusual eye size or loose skin. The research goal this year is finding a systematic way to identify skinwalkers 99% of the time and finding out defensive measures that can be taken to prevent loss of possession of body. Entity, E59. Nickname, The Rake. Class, Null. Threat, Moderate. Containment, Moderate. Utility, Low. After the elimination of the Wendigo, a new creature has seemingly taken its place in the Midwest of America and southern Canada. Humanoid in shape, the rake has varying size limbs but usually conforms to a white pasty color skin. Rakes hunt at night and humans are their favorite prey. Rakes are susceptible to gunfire, yet are incredibly agile and thus hard to shoot. The research goal this year is finding out the cause of their resurgence and the correlation after the Wendigo eradication. Is there a point of taking out entities, if there is always a bigger fish?
Now, this segment is important for a lot of reasons, but to boil it down to my main points, for one, they reiterate the fact that ERD's primary goal is not keeping people safe. It is taking an entity that is a threat to all of humanity essentially, and twisting it and using it for their own gain. This module also shows what we already know with the threat levels, the containment levels, and the utility levels. It just explains it a little bit more. But it also gives us clarification as to classes. Again, with the doppelganger one, doppelgangers aren't just humanoid creatures. They are creatures that possess the ability to look like humans, but it's a more broad spectrum. From the shadow people to the skinwalker, neither of them look exactly like a human, but they have human enough features to where they could probably blend in if they wanted to. Also, with the skinwalker, it can mimic other things. In the photo of it, it's mimicking a deer, so assumedly a doppelganger is also classified as something that can mimic things other than humans. We also see two other classes, machines and null, and presumably there's more classes than just that. But the biggest takeaway that you can get from all of this, because you're not yourself an agent of this company, is that ERD does not care about you. They wouldn't care about you if you were an employee, a pedestrian. It doesn't matter to them. They killed people for an experiment on an entity that they don't know anything about. They used a subject who was going about their life, killed that subject, and then dragged their name through the mud by saying that they massacred all of the people that they let an entity kill. They actively tell you that they will kill you if you don't follow their protocols and their directions to the letter. The ERD does not care. At the end here, the game will take the username on your PC and then put it at the bottom. It's one of those things that you can opt out of, but it's made to scare you, and it has parts of my real name in it, so I blurred it out. It does that and then says stop watching before they find you, before the game ends. Now, the game developer makes mention to a fourth game that is coming out at some point. It hasn't been announced yet as far as I could tell. And whenever it comes out, I'll make a video on it. But for now, that's about all that I have here for this video. There is an r/no sleep story that the game developer links to at the end of each game, but I'm not going to read that just because I don't want any trouble with me reading that and not having the permissions to do so. So I'll link it in the pinned comment or the description for this video, and you can go read it for yourself. And with all of that being said, this is the end of the video. I hope everybody's been enjoying what I'm doing, and I think that the support that I've been receiving is amazing. I'm trying my best to stay consistent, and hopefully I'm being consistent enough to where you guys stay interested. Let me know how I'm doing with all of that in the comments, but I hope you guys like it. If you do, subscribe, leave a comment, and I love you all, and have a nice night, and sweet dreams.